Hi and welcome back to my channel. This is going out on the 3rd of September, so I thought it was only right that I do a full dive into my TBR for September. Let's go. Now, before we start, I am praying to the book gods that this goes according to plan. Because, number one, my mic had no battery when I started this, so we're hoping my phone picks up this sound well enough. My ring light has broken, so the ring light is currently gorilla taped to the ceiling above where my phone is because it's a slanted one, so I'm hoping that doesn't collapse. I bought a camera in a desperate need for a serotonin boost yesterday, and when it arrived today I've opened it and it films sound and pictures like I'm doing it on a potato, so that's been a washout. And then just before I started filming this, I had a book collapse of my TBR for the month, so they were just scattered all around me for a few minutes whilst I stared into the abyss. That's where we are. But like I said, we are going to pray to the book gods that this all goes according to plan and it is sufficiently entertaining enough for you all. I am currently filming this on Saturday the 30th of August. It is grey, it is miserable, it is raining, and I am loving it. I have been over summer for weeks already this year. Usually I love it. I am good with 30-degree heat. I want to be sat outside in a beer garden or with my book, just living my best life. And this year it has just been too hot. My child has been too overstimulated and I have not coped very well with it. But schools go back next week and we are all very excited for it. Don't know if the teachers are, don't know if the kids are. As a parent, I am fairly certain that we are all just counting down. So I don't know when everyone else's go back, but mine goes back on Tuesday. But I can't. It's going to be so good. I'm going to be so much more productive. I'm going to be able to get my actual 9-to-5 day job done. I'm going to be able to just sit in silence for 20 minutes on my lunch. Honestly, this summer holidays broken me. But I have read some very good books. I've also read some rubbish, but that'll be next week's video, I think, my August wrap up. So, my TBR, now I'm waffling. I made a list the other day of essentially 18 books that I want to read in the last 18 weeks of the year. So that has impacted on my TBR. I also made a list the other day of all of my part finish series. So this includes any that I am up to date on, but are incomplete series. So for example, Quicksilver's on there, Silvercloak, what else? When the Moon Hatched is on there. Anything that I am, in theory, in the middle of. What is also on there is any series that may be complete, they may not be complete, but I am partway through. So on that, we've then got things like Black Dagger Brotherhood, we've got Crowns of Nyaxia, Gods and Monsters. I think the only completed series on this list that I haven't yet got to the end of was possibly Plated Prisoner, because I've got Gold and Goldfinch still to read in that one. I think everything else is still being published. I'm just not up to date with it. So that's sections 1 and 2. Section 3 is the 52 Book Club Challenge. So I started this back in January and I used it first of all as a prompting tool because I was just getting back into reading. I found it quite helpful to have some sort of guidance with where I was going and what I was choosing to read. It also pushed me out of my comfort zone a little bit and also made me realise why my comfort zone is my comfort zone. So, for example, I like historical fiction. I enjoy Philippa Gregory, I like Alison Weir. Specifically, I like books about the Tudors and the Tudor wives. I, therefore, for one of the prompts, read Wolf Hall because the prompt was a character with red hair. Thought Henry VIII, great. TV show looked great, thought this was onto a winner. I hated that book. Honestly, the way it was written, it was the tenses it used. I hated everything about it. That book made me feel stupid. And I don't think I am stupid. I've forgotten what words to use about 4 times already in this video. But in general, you know, we're at the end of a 6-week holiday, guys. My brain is mush. But I read this in January. I was completely Copus Mentis back in January. So, yeah, 52 book club challenge both broadened my horizons and made me realise specifically what it is that I like to read. I have then continued it through the year, and I've now got, I think, 11 prompts left that I need to complete. A lot of them, I know exactly what books I've got or what books I'm going to get that will fulfil those prompts. There are a couple that I have no idea what to choose. So that's where at some point I will be coming to you guys. Hopefully you'll be able to give me some suggestions. So then sections 4 and 5 are to do with my book club. It's an online book club on Discord, and the 2 sections that relate to them will be the travelling book club that we do. So I will have 2 books within that cycle to read this month. I will read them, annotate them, review them, pass them on to the next. And then the 5th section is our book of the month, which we usually do on a Discord call for an hour or so, go through our review, just catch up with each other. This month's going to be slightly different because we're all actually going to meet in person. We're all going away for the weekend. So we've got a nice little house booked, a couple of activities. It's going to be a really fun time. So they are my 5 sections. Unfinished series, my general TBR, 52 book club, book of the month, and travelling book club. Let's get into it. So for the unfinished series, I roped in the help of Kimberly, who is in the Discord book club, and I asked her to pick a number between 1 and 11. So the first result that she picked was the Gods and Monsters series. I've already read the Book of Asriel and Throne of Broken Gods, so I'm on to book 3, which is The Dawn of the Cursed Queen, and that will take me perfectly into October, which is when book 4 comes out. So I've been reading these on my Kindle, and I love them. I had issues with Amber V. Nicole's world building in book 1, but from about 40%, and then the whole of Throne of Broken Gods, I'm obsessed. I love Deanna, I love Samkiel. The way that Amber V. Nicole can write a slow burn, the tension that is there, they are true enemies to lovers. There's none of this, oh, I hate you, but 5 seconds later I'm kissing you. There is so much tension and so much hatred between them, but it works so well. And book 2 ended on a major cliffhanger for me. Other people may have sort of seen it coming, may not have been that bothered. I was screaming at the book at what the consequences of that ending may mean, and I cannot wait to read this book. The next pick that she got was another Kindle read, and it was Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac by the Twisted Sisters. So I have I want to say complicated relationship with the Twisted Sisters, and I think I've just made that sound really dramatic, and it's not that deep. It doesn't need to be. But basically, back in January, one of my New Year's resolutions was that I wanted to get back into reading. I joined a group on Facebook, and as part of the subsection of that group, there was a book club chat that was kind of going on, and it wasn't a book club like we were all doing reviews, things like that, but it was just a place for us all to talk and recommend books, suggest things for other people to read. And when I explained that I was getting back into reading, I liked sort of fantasy, romantasy, I had Kindle Unlimited, somebody recommended the Zodiac Academy books to me. I started to read them. I ultimately binged them in about 6 weeks. But when I first started reading them, I read The Awakening and I was like, well, it's inoffensive. It passed the time. I could read it on my Kindle, on my phone. It didn't seem too big. Honestly, I didn't see the physical Zodiac Academy books until about a month and a half ago, and my mind is blown because I did not realise how big they were. But yeah, I read it, I enjoyed it. It was nothing to write home about. It was very middle of the road for me. But I had nothing else to read at that point, so I carried on reading them. I eventually got to book 4, I think it was, which is Shadow Princess. Shadow Princess is either 4 or 5, but it was definitely Shadow Princess that was the turner for me. And I read that one, I was like, no, I'm invested, I'm in this series, I love it, I need to know what's happening, I am involved with these characters. I was part of the cult, and I'm okay with it. So I got to the end of them and immediately picked up Dark Fae, which is book 1 in Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac. And I did not like it, and I was then really disappointed. It felt quite juvenile to me, and it almost felt like a mirror of Zodiac Academy. Same story, different names. I just had a lot of issues with it. However, I think that's on me and not on the Twisted Sisters. So I will use this platform and the 5 people that watch me to apologise to the Twisted Sisters for potentially sullying their good name. What I now think is that from what I have seen in other people's reviews and other people's opinions, their book seems to follow a bit of a pattern, and the first book is never where the true story is. The first book sets the groundwork essentially, and I went into Ruthless Boys assuming it was going to be like Restless Stars, and it obviously isn't. It is much more akin to The Awakening. So I am hoping that Savage Fae, which is book 2, puts me back on the right track with the Twisted Sisters. Mainly because I really like them. I also really want to read Neverkeep and Echo Fort. They're on my TBR. And I've pre-ordered Hollow that comes out in November. So I really need to get back to loving them. But I am fairly confident that I will. I think I just needed to adjust my mindset as to how I was reading them. So, book 2, Savage Fae, book 2 of the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac for this month's TBR. The third book that Kimberly picked, she's fuming about because she doesn't want me to read it before her, but she has not yet read book 1, and I am adamant I'm going to read this book. I have given her one bit of grace. I have said I will leave it towards the end of the month so that she has enough time to try and read the first book, but I am not waiting for her. No. So, this book, Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. And can we just take a moment? Just look at the cover. It's just stunning. So I read Priory of the Orange Tree, which is book 1 in the Roots of Chaos series. Priory of the Orange Tree reminded me why I fell in love with reading as a child. It reminded me why I love fantasy. It reminded me why I love getting lost in books. It reminded me how powerful a book can be. Just 10 out of 10. No notes. It was stunning. I loved it. So from reading that, I immediately decided that Samantha Shannon was an auto-buy author. I haven't had a chance to read anything else of hers yet, but I stand by my point. So I'm so excited to read this one. The way that she's done the Roots of Chaos series, I'm just going to put this down because it's the arm cramp that I keep talking about. So there's Priory of the Orange Tree, Day of Fallen Night, and then the third book is Amongst the Burning Flowers, and that comes out this month. Samantha Shannon herself has said that it really doesn't matter which order you read the books in. It's more what you're wanting to get out of them is the order that you should maybe read them in. So I am reading them in the order that they've been published. So Priory of the Orange Tree, Day of Fallen Night, and eventually Amongst the Burning Flowers. They say that if you are incredibly familiar with epic fantasies and the way that they world build and the language that they use, then you may want to read them chronologically. Chronologically would be Day of Fallen Night, Amongst the Burning Flowers, Priory of the Orange Tree. And then she has also said that if you are brand new to epic fantasy, it's not something that you're that familiar with, then read them in the order of Amongst the Burning Flowers, Priory of the Orange Tree, and then Day of Fallen Night at the end. So Day of Fallen Night is set 500 years before Priory of the Orange Tree, and it's set during the Great Sorrow, and it basically dives into the story that is alluded to within Priory of the Orange Tree. It is again told from the point of view of multiple people. This one I believe is 4 women, and it is all about how when the Dreadmount erupts, how the world is saved from living in an age of terror, and genuinely, it's the one I'm most excited about. And I really hope Kimberly appreciates the fact that I've said I'll leave this to the end of the month, because I want to read it now. I am going to a talk by Samantha Shannon on the 11th of September in Liverpool. I am so excited for it, and I'm gutted that I will only have read one of her books by the time this comes about. So Kimberly, you owe me. The fourth book I have chosen for my unfinished series, I didn't do the random generator, and I've chosen Black Dagger Brotherhood. I have chosen this because there are 20 in the main series. I have read about 7 of them, but this was a while ago. This year, since getting the physical copies, I've read 1, and I need to make my way through that. Book 2 in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series is Lover Eternal, and this follows Rage, and it's a really sweet story, this one. Again, I have read it before, I know I'm going to enjoy it. I'm hoping because I have read it, I can speed through it. It's not the thickest of, 453 pages, but I could do that in a weekend. It's not a claim to fame, I've read it before, and I know if I'm enjoying something, I can quite easily read sort of 200-300 pages in a sitting, and I know I enjoyed this one. So like I said, it follows Rage, and he meets Mary Luce, who is terminally ill. Well, obviously, they're vampires. There's options available to them. So it goes further into Rage's backstory, it goes into Rage and Mary's love story, and you find out a lot more about the Lessening Society in this book. None of it good, they're awful, awful soulless beings, but you find out a lot more about them. If you haven't read the Black Dagger Brotherhood, I genuinely really recommend it. It was the first sort of urban fantasy that I ever read that I enjoyed. There have been ones since then, you know, Gods and Monsters and whatnot, but this was the first one that I read, and as I was reading it, I wasn't rolling my eyes at someone trying to mix and match fantasy and the modern day. It works really well in these books, and J.R. Ward is really talented. She manages to write characters that are incredibly likeable, but incredibly rounded. They have full backstories. Their faults aren't necessarily always redeemable, but you know why they are their faults. Her antagonists in the Lessening Society are genuinely horrific. They are awful people. The political system that she has created for the vampires and their hierarchy, I really enjoy, and I like it even more as you get further and further through the books. I think it just gets better. It's just another series that I really want to get to the end of because I want to go into the offshoot series and the spin-offs, and I want to see how all the worlds collide and where we go with each bit of it. So that would be book 4 on my TBR. I then used my TBR Wheel of Shame to pick 2 books off my general TBR. So these are books that I obviously want to read, that I have either physically or on my Kindle, and I just keep getting distracted by other things. First up, we have got Heavenly Bodies by Imani Iru, and I picked this up a couple of weeks ago when I went to meet Emma, who is another one of my Discord book club friends. We met for the first time. It was everything that I wanted it to be. It was great. We went book shopping in Asda, and her Asda, 1,000 times better than my Asda's. They had Heavenly Bodies, but they also had JT, I need to stop picking authors that I can't say the names of, JT Gessinger, so the Ruthless Creatures series, which was sold out, so the people of Doncaster have got their priorities correct. They just had quite a big fantasy selection and dark romance, which is not what I see in my Asda. My Asda is a lot of Colleen Hoover, and it's not my vibe. But Heavenly Bodies, I hadn't really heard much about this, and I'll be honest, it's not a book that would probably grab my attention when I was out book shopping. However, I then saw reviews, well, first of all by What Emmy Reads, and she was raving about this book, and I was like, oh, actually, maybe it's better than I thought it was going to be. And so saw it, got it, and I'm buddy reading it with Emma this month, and I'm very excited for it. I still don't really know much about it. In a world ruled by the stars, cruel and merciless gods, Alara has been cursed by fate. A prophecy promises she will fall for a star, but it will kill them both. When the star descends to hunt Alara, the neighbouring kingdom sees an opportunity to steal her from her home, the Kingdom of Night, to Helios, the Kingdom of Light. There, Ilara is forced to either let enemy Prince Lorenzo train her into a weapon worthy of battling against the stars, or to accept her fate. But there are shadows even within the Kingdom of Light, and they threaten to reveal the darkness in Lorenzo's past and the ancient magic that slumbers in Ilara's veins, and with it, the undeniable star-crossed pull between them. So this sounds like it's going to have a bit of a love triangle. It sounds like it's going to have fated mates, which big fan of women figuring out they've got magical powers. I actually don't know why I've put this off for so long, because it genuinely sounds excellent. The stars falling to Earth is weirdly, after I've already talked about it in this video, giving me Zodiac Academy vibes, but in a much darker, deeper sense than you get it in that one. But I'm excited. I also really enjoy an enemies to lovers. However, I get really annoyed when they're not properly enemies to lovers and it's just mildly annoyed to lovers. So hopefully this will deliver, but I will keep you all updated. So the 6th book on my TBR for the month, I am so excited for, which I feel like I've said about every one of these books, but frankly, I have a really good TBR. I'm really excited for this. It is so far up my street that this book is living in my house, and I have not heard anything at all really about it. I saw a bit of buzz when it came out, and then I don't think I've seen any reviews or anyone really talking about it. And I am going to take that as I have got a hidden gem here. Not that it's going to be awful when I read it, but... And that one is 6 Wild Crowns by Holly Race. The Waterstones edition. Little sprayed edges moment going on. I am so excited for this book. When I say this book is so far up my street, we are talking Henry VIII's wives, and we are talking a fantasy setting. It's like she wrote this book for me. It's all of my favourite things in one go. It's going to be brilliant. So I'm going to read the blurb, because the blurb makes it even better. The king has been appointed by God to marry 6 queens. Those 6 queens are all that stand between the kingdom of Elben and ruin, or so we have been told. Each queen vies for attention. Clever, ambitious Boleyn is determined to be Henry's favourite, and if she must incite a war to win Henry over, so be it. Seymour acts as spy and assassin in a court teeming with dragons, backstabbing courtiers and strange magic. But when she and Boleyn become the unlikeliest of things, allies, the balance of power begins to shift. Together they will discover an ancient rotting magic at Elben's heart, a magic that their king will do anything to protect. And it also says, a captivating epic fantasy filled with dragons, court politics and sapphic yearning, perfect for fans of the Priory of the Orange Tree. I think she wrote this book for me. I think specifically this book was for me. And I'm so excited. So yeah, we've got lesbian Tudor wives. What is not to love within that sentence? To me, lesbian Tudor wives has the same, well, I'm hooked feeling as toxic lesbian vampires. Where can we go wrong with this? Honestly. So, 6 Wild Crowns by Holly Race. Our next section of my TBR is the 52 Book Club Challenge. I've got about 11 prompts, I think, left to go. So I have selected 3 of them that I'm going to do this month, and we're going to see how easy it is to get through them. And then at some point, I'm going to need your guys' help to pick. One of them, for example, is I think Latin American history has to be involved in the book. I have no idea. But we will get into that at a different point. But get your thinking hats on, because I don't know what I'm going to read for that. So the first prompt that I went for is quite a simple one. It's just read in a Burr month. So September, October, November, December. So this has been sat on my bookshelves for a while, and as excited as I am to read it, it isn't a genre of book that I would instinctively reach for. So I thought, I'll use it for this prompt now, and then I know I'm going to read it, and we're done with it. Which sounds awful, and I don't mean we're done with it as in get it out of the way, but otherwise it will just keep staring at me, and I will be sat here every month going, I really want to read this book, and I'll never actually read it because it hasn't got dragons in it, or magic, or vampires, which makes my reading sound really juvenile, but I like what I like. Anyway, so The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo follows Evelyn Hugo, who has been a huge Hollywood actress through 3 or 4 different decades, and as she gets into her golden years, she decides that she wants to do an interview and basically a bit of a tell-all about her life, because she's had 7 husbands, Woman's got a lot to talk about. So the book is separated into different sections, I believe, and each one has a different name of the husband, and it goes through her relationship and her career at that stage until obviously we get to modern day, where I assume it will culminate in some sort of, I won't say twist, but there will be something that ties everything together, because I think that's how Taylor Jenkins Reid likes to write, and it's quite nice. Book 2 of my selections for my 52 book club challenge, Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Sutanto. This book fits the prompt of an Edgar Award nominee or winner, and I'm fairly certain that Jessie won the Edgar Award for this book. Again, this was not something I would usually pick up, but then when I started reading the blurb on it, it just sounds hilarious and cosy, and who doesn't want to see old women solve murders? It just feels like quite nice and light-hearted, whilst having a bit of emotional depth as well. Again, it's 334 pages, but it's quite sort of large font. So I think once I get into this, it's not going to take me long at all. This entire month is basically based around the fact that I need to make sure I've got enough time to read Day of Fallen Night. It's basically where we are, because that book's 800 and something pages. It's going to be worth every page. That's a lot of pages. So Vera Wong. 60-year-old self-proclaimed tea expert Vera Wong enjoys nothing more than sipping a good cup of oolong and doing some healthy detective work on the internet, aka checking up on her son to see if he's dating anybody yet. But when Vera wakes up one morning to find a dead man in the middle of her tea shop, it's going to take more than a strong long gin to fix things. Knowing she'll do a better job than the police possibly could, because nothing sniffs out a wrongdoing quite like a suspicious Chinese mother with time on her hands, Vera decides it's down to her to catch the killer. Nobody spills the tea like this amateur sleuth. It just sounds like it's going to be incredibly entertaining, and I need more entertaining books. I love the books I read, but they're quite dark, they're quite dramatic, and I think I just need something that's just going to fill my cup up, for lack of a better phrase, when I'm talking about a book about a tea room. But yeah, I think it's just going to be quite wholesome and quite enjoyable. So the third book for the 52 Book Club Challenge prompts that I'm getting through is Cat Dragon by Samantha Birch. And this was one of the Forbidden Wing books. I think it was August Forbidden Wing. It's very pretty. Again, this book is so wholesome that it is absolutely not one that I would gravitate towards. However, all the descriptions I've seen of it all liken it, or say at least that it's for fans of Studio Ghibli. And I love Studio Ghibli. Totoro is just adorable. The little soot things, I think about them on a daily basis for no real reason. I just think they're adorable. And this is just giving cozy, getting into autumn vibes, really. In the whimsical world of Tangleroot Valley, magic flows like the seasons, and every witch has her cat dragon except Eloisa Papawick. She's far from bonding with her fiery feline familiar, and with her magical farming chaos, her prattling pumpkin patch meddling in her life, and the annual harvest festival to prepare for, Alicia has enough to handle, even before her best friend's insufferable brother Hollis brings danger and distraction to her door. When she and Hollis are whisked away on a quest to a mysterious mountain, Eloisa must contend with magic mayhem and a spark she never expected. I am fairly certain I've just pronounced her name 3 different ways, but it's Aloysia. We'll just add this to the list of names I don't know how to say, and if anyone does know and can put it in the comments, much appreciated. But ultimately, this just seems really sweet. Again, it's not a huge book. I think it's just over 400 pages, decent sized font, and the blurb to me just feels very, well, I get the Studio Ghibli vibes, but I also feel like it's going to be a bit Stardew Valley, and I'm just here for that. Like I said, it's not a book that I would have picked up. I'd have looked at it and gone, too sickly for me. But actually, it's making me branch out, and I can see the benefit of reading it. If I read it and I don't like it, well, I've learnt not to expand my reading tastes. But I genuinely think I will do. I don't think it's going to be like a 5-star read, but I think that it's just going to feel lovely and wholesome and enjoyable. So the final 3 books on my TBR for September are all book club books. So we've got the 2 travelling book clubs and then book of the month. So in this cycle of the travelling book club, I will have to read The Fall of Wrath and Ruin by Jennifer Armentrout, and I will also be reading Filthy Rich Fae by Geneva Lee. The Fall of Wrath and Ruin was absolutely on my TBR So I'm so excited that I actually get to read it. And this book seems to have divided opinions as to whether they have enjoyed it or not. But I'm just going to read the blurb of it out. I don't have the physical book yet. So, she lives by her intuition and he feeds on her pleasure. Long ago, the world was destroyed by gods. Only 9 cities were spared. Separated by vast wilderness teeming with monsters and unimaginable dangers, each city is now ruled by a guardian, royalty who feed on mortal pleasure. Born with an intuition that never fails, Callista knows her talents are of great value to the power-hungry of the world, so she lives hidden as a courtesan of the Baron of Archwood. In exchange for his protection, she grants him information. When her intuition leads her to save a travelling prince in dire trouble, the voice inside her blazes with warning and promise. Today he'll bring her joy, one day he'll be her doom. When the Baron takes an interest in the travelling prince, and the prince takes an interest in Callista, she becomes the prince's temporary companion. But the city simmers with rebellion, and with knights and monsters at her city gates, and a hungry prince in her bed, intuition may not be enough to keep her safe. Callista must follow her intuition to safety, or follow her heart to her downfall. So excited. It just seems that it will have everything that I want in a book, to be honest. And I also think that this is part of quite a large series. Let me check. So this is book 1 in Jennifer Armentrout's new series called The Awakening. It is set in the same universe as the From Blood and Ash series and also the Flesh and Fire series. So I think they are all in theory standalone series, but they all interconnect in tiny places, sort of Easter eggs and that kind of thing, which I also really enjoy. I like having a full world built for me, because if you stick to one area, you're only seeing a very small amount. It's like saying you're learning the history of Earth, but all you're looking at is Italy. There's so much more, and so much more that interlinks with each other, and I very much enjoy series that all connect into each other. So I'm excited to get started on that one. Filthy Rich Fae, I know nothing about, to be honest. It's not been a book that has massively caught my eye. I've seen it doing the rounds on TikTok. I've heard quite good things about it. I just don't think it would fall into my usual remit. But the blurb for this one: you made a bargain. Your soul for his, and now you are mine. Kate Holloway knows the unspoken rule of New Orleans. Avoid the powerful Gage crime family at all costs. Of course, that was before her brother got caught in their chaos. Now Kate has no choice but to confront the dark and forbidding Prince of New Orleans himself and beg for her brother's life. But Lachlan Gage is as lethal as he is beautiful. The only currency he's interested in is her soul. Because Lachlan isn't just some ruthless criminal, he's Fae, and he has his own secret reasons for binding her to him. Tricked and desperate, Kate is torn between humanity and the breathtaking otherworld, a place filled with shadows and secrets, with members of each Fae court plotting against her, just as her captor's motives for trapping her become more mysterious. And if she can't break this sinister bargain in the next 30 days, she'll be bound to the inscrutable yet infuriatingly tempting Fae Prince and his deadly world forever. I think it's going to go one or two ways. I'm either going to read it and love it, or I'm going to read it and be glad that I get to pass it on to somebody else. I just think that it's quite difficult to mix dark romance and fantasy and do it well. I spoke in a previous video about Sadie Kincaid's Broken Bloodline series, which does kind of merge the dark romance and the fantasy element. And I loved book 1 and 2, and I've just finished book 3 and hated it. I just think it went completely off the rails. I just think those two genres are so specific. It is so hard to merge them, get the tone that you want, and it not feel gimmicky. And that is my concern with Filthy Rich Fae. But like I said, open mind, open heart. We may be pleasantly surprised. You'll just have to watch this space and find out. So the final book on September's TBR is the book club's book of the month. It's been picked by Emma, and it is Satanic Shadows by Lee Rivers. So the blurb for this one, because I will be reading it on my Kindle: Seraphine Winters had a normal life, one she misses when she's kidnapped and taken to an island in the middle of nowhere. Forced to attend Quarierton Academy, a castle full of immortal beings, the only way she can leave is if she passes all of her classes. But as a human, she's hated just for breathing, with no way to fit in around magic and powers she never knew existed. And who doesn't hate mortals more than Dane Dalton? The Shadow Prince loads everything about her, yet there are more secrets and lies than truths between the pair, and it's a race against time when the curse is revealed. This book would not be on my list. This book is not something that appeals to me. I've sort of touched on it before. I just think that, almost like I said about Filthy Rich Fae, I just think it's so hard to write a dark romance in a romancy setting. I think something has to give and something will end up seeming gimmicky and cheesy, which is not what I want from a dark romance. I know a lot of people who really love Lee Rivers, and her dark romance stuff is apparently very, very good. So I am hoping that she manages to balance the line. I think what I tend to find in dark romance fantasy books is that they tone down both sections. So the fantasy elements become very paint by numbers. They become, here is a vampire. This vampire likes blood. Because of that, he's a bad guy. There's no depth to any of it. And likewise, the dark romance side of it is toned down to appeal to the fantasy. So what you end up is just a really lukewarm mess, is what I find from a lot of dark romance fantasies. Again, I am hoping that this one is better. What I would prefer is that they just kept it incredibly dark and then threw in supernatural characteristics. But instead, they always just, I don't know what it is, something always seems to go cheesy. And I don't like the cheese. I like dark romances, and I like fantastic fantasies. I just think there's a better way to merge them, and I don't see it that often. So there we are, the 12 books on my TBR for September. To be honest, I'm excited. I think it's going to be a good month. I think the fact that out of 12 books, 10 of them I am incredibly excited to read, and 2 of them I'm a little bit more trepidatious about. I don't think it's bad odds. I think I've done quite well this month. I'm excited to get through more of my unfinished series. I'm excited to crack on with the 52 book club challenge. I have got a couple of other books in mind if I manage to get through these 12. So keep your eyes peeled and we'll find out how I do. But yeah, let me know what you've got on for this month, if you've got any of the same books in your TBR as I have. And I will see you next time. Bye.